I want to discuss some of my possible matchups for Super Bowl 60 and the contingencies surrounding, okay, if this team wins, who could they face? But if it's this team, then who are they going to face? Now, let me start out and just say that I like the Bengals to win the Super Bowl because Joe Montana is Mr. Clutch, and then Joe Burrow, Joe Montana, best quarterback of the 49ers, and then we have Joe Burrow. So that's what strikes me about the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals played in two Super Bowls against the 49ers, and so and and people are gonna talk about the defense and um, but this is a top five offense. They have the best quarterback in football. It's a team game, and so let's not forget that Joe Burrow, Higgins, and um, Jamar Chase. This guy threw for how many yards, despite having a really bad offensive line. I mean, he can take a beating. Anytime you're 5-2 in the playoffs, okay, you're Mr. Clutch in the postseason. And how I look at the Bengals is if they miss the playoffs a couple times, well, they don't want this guy to be 6-4 in the playoffs or 5-5 in the playoffs, something like that. They want to keep that playoff record with a high win percentage. So this is the angle of Joe Montana that I'm looking at, and then as I look at Joe Burrow with 60 touchdowns in a single season with LSU. And I look at the fact that it's 60 days from Joe Burrow's birthday to the Super Bowl. Well, that is just a lot that I can't just brush aside. So the Bengals are going to be a team that, if it is not destined for the Bills, then this could be a year where Joe Burrow is clearly the best quarterback in the league and he beats everybody. This is going to be a monstrous run for the Cincinnati Bengals. If they win the Super Bowl, they're going to beat every elite quarterback. They're not going to beat in the regular season. They'll beat Lamar in the postseason. They're going to beat the Chiefs. This Chiefs rivalry. Oh, they tried to avoid you. They tried to avoid the Bengals. No, we didn't. Blah, blah, blah. This back and forth bickering, because, like people were saying, they're resting the starters because they're scared. They didn't want to play the Bengals. Then the Bengals started chirping, and then Travis Kelsey was like, oh, bullshit, bullshit. We were not scared of you guys at all. And so the bottom line is it's going to add fuel to the fire. Another Bengals Chiefs matchup, in the first time in quite some time that the Chiefs lose against the AFC. Last time they lost in the playoffs against the AFC was against the Bengals. So, and I liked the Cat versus Tiger Super Bowl matchup because obviously Jared Goff is from the Bay Area. He played college football at Cal Berkeley, and it kind of makes sense in a way that if the Lions fall short last year, then they weren't going to have the Lions in two straight Super Bowls. So because the Lions lost last year, they may very well make it uh, this year. So the Lion Cat matchup, just the one team that makes the sense. The matchup that makes the most sense is the Lion against the Cat. That's how I look at it. But if it isn't the Lions in the NFC, then that's where we get the Philadelphia Eagles. So we get a white supremacist ritual because let's not forget, even though Jalen Hurts, full-blooded black quarterback, won the Super Bowl, let's roll back. Let's roll it back. Who did Jalen Hurts beat? Black quarterback Jordan Love. Black quarterback Jaden Daniel. Black quarterback Patrick Mahomes. The only white quarterback he beat was Jared Goff, but he's not Mr. Hot Shot like Josh Allen or Joe Burrow. So that is the subliminal white supremacist ritual behind the whole run for the Super Bowl for Jalen Hurts, but they had him beat mostly black quarterbacks. That is the subliminal racism on the part of the scriptwriters of the NFL. And so, if it is not the Lion uh, Cat matchup, then Joe Burrow denies the repeat and he beats the Philadelphia Eagles. Basically, the Eagles would be denied a repeat by the best quarterback in football. Eagles fought at 2-4 in Super Bowls. So really, if the Bengals are in the Super Bowl, I'm looking at Lions, I'm looking at Eagles. Either Lions or Eagles to go through. Parity, too much money. If the Lions start off quick, that is a team that they could bet a lot of money on the Detroit Lions to win the NFC and the Super Bowl. Like, oh, they're healthier, they'll make it. So I don't know how the public is going to receive the Detroit Lions this year. They completely overlooked the Eagles last year. The public, are they going to get behind the Lions if they start 5-0, if they beat the Ravens, if they beat the Bengals, so, and if the Lions beat the Chiefs? It could be caveat emptor. It could be caveat emptor. But basically, if it is the Eagles, then Burrow's going to enter the Super Bowl with 8-2 playoff record because the Bengals have no chance of getting a bye. The Ravens are going to win the division easily. I've got the Ravens winning both regular season matchups in late November at some point in December. So if it is the Eagles, it is Philly that's going to motivate too. If Burrow's going to deny the repeat, for me, these are the two possibilities for the Bengals. And just for the heck of it, I think this is worth the play too. Green Bay Packers is Camacho too. So if we get a black quarterback losing at the Bay Area again, like Cam Newton, in a white horse versus Black Panther race war style matchup, because back then we had Obama and we had the angry white people wanted Donald Trump, wanted ship out all the brown people. We had a race war ritual back in 2015 where you had the Black Panther against the white Bronco and Peyton Manning. So that symbolic subliminal race war Super Bowl matchup, Cam Newton was kind of the lynching, so to speak. Even though UEP Newton was from the Bay Area, I mean, Cam Newton lost. He was full-blooded black quarterback. So that's where we got to include Jordan Love in the convo, and this is where Jalen Hurts comes into play. So it got Huey P. Newton race ritual, and we've got the Bay Area kid, Jared Goff. And okay, so this is going to lead us to the Buffalo Bills. The range is going to be Super Bowl 60 and Super Bowl 61. If the Lions lose and fail to win the NFC, and the Ravens and the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl this year, then this would mean that the Lions Bills matchup doesn't go outside the door. And under that contingency, that is where a Lions Bills matchup for Super Bowl 61 is possible. And so, do the Lions make it next year if they get the Eagles The numbers stack up for Eagles Bengals, but Eagles Ravens is a possibility too. You gotta don't sleep past Eagles Ravens because it is something that Huey P. Newton in the Black Panther Party. You got to include the all black matchup in there if the Ravens are supposed to be good. If the Eagles are the favorites in the NFC, if Lamar is a favorite in the AFC, then we got to include that matchup in the possibilities. We've got to include the Ravens and the Eagles. Lions and Bills is possible matchup as well. But then again, if the Bills don't make it this year, if the Lions don't make it next year, I can see the Bills being the Lions next season. I think the Georgia wide receiver who's on the LA Chargers, I think the Chargers are going to win Super Bowl 62. Harbaugh's going to get a scripted title, 100%. He's going to get a scripted title. The next star wide receiver on the Chargers is some kid from the University of Georgia, had a breakout rookie season. So this guy could be playing in Super Bowl at Georgia. So Super Bowl 62, I got to say, it's got to be the Chargers in there. It's got to be the Chargers in there. But yeah, but the thing about the Bills, too, that's interesting is that Josh Allen was born and raised at Firebaugh. Firebaugh is in Northern Cal. So Josh Allen's closer to Levi Stadium than SoFi Stadium. So could it be a psyop? It could be a psyop, but Buffalo Bills definitely have to be in the convo. These are the 27s. Cincy and Buffalo are the two obvious 27s. And the range for the Bills, 60 to 62 is the range for the Bills. I've told you I've never predicted the Bills to win a Super Bowl before. Now this comes around the time that they're going to open their new stadium. So if we're talking about timing differences, I don't think the Bills win the Super Bowl right before they open the new stadium. The new stadium's going to generate revenue. You got to make back the money that I don't know how much of it is privately financed, how much of it is through the taxpayer, but expanded capacity, I presume. The Bills have to win the Super Bowl right after they open the new stadium. So even though he is closer to Levi Stadium, to the Bay Area, I got to say that the Bills are probably a target for Super Bowl 61. And because Buffalo is 27, then, the 2027 season or the Super Bowl being played in 2027. So I'd say the range is going to say that the Bills may miss out, but the Bills still have to consider them for this year. Yeah, and then Bills is 54, and then I said before Inglewood, California is 54. So that's where and abbreviations works, by the way, because what was it? Why do the abbreviations work? Well, here's an abbreviation. Let's take this example, Glendale, Arizona, the abbreviation. The abbreviation worked because Jalen Hurts played in that Super Bowl. Glendale, Arizona hosted Super Bowl 42. The Patriots upset, and Jalen's Comanche 42. He did play in the Super Bowl at Glendale, Arizona. So this is what I mean when abbreviations are very appropriate. Let's take this abbreviation example. Las Vegas, Nevada is under 22 and 32, but then San Francisco is 100 is under 22. And I think Chiefs by itself is Comanche 32. So it is very appropriate to use the abbreviation when breaking down who can play in the game because it's been done before. With or without the abbreviation. For example, Santa Clara 27, but then the Santa Clara Niners played in the Super Bowl at Miami back in Super Bowl 54. So either with or without the abbreviation works. Let's take this other. They really like using the abbreviations. New Orleans, Louisiana is 49, and then next thing you know, the 49ers played at New Orleans in Super Bowl 47, and then 49ers Comanche Eagles. So this abbreviation method is really, really reliable. You should always use abbreviations based off of the recent history. And Inglewood, California is 54, like we said before. Well, what equals 54? Since he's 54, they played at Inglewood, California. This abbreviation method is super, super reliable based off of what happened in the past. So what's abbreviation for this season? All we get, Santa Clara, California is 86 in abbreviations in the reverse, and that's the same exact Comanche as the Detroit Lions in abbreviations. So that's very interesting. Overall, I think Trey Hendrickson is gonna he's gonna, uh, and I think that the wild card is Joe Burrow deferring salary. He's gonna pull off a Tom Brady. That's what I think is gonna happen. He's gonna defer and pull a Tom Brady. He's gonna say, "Okay, you guys are cheap pricks. I'm gonna keep the group together for one more year. Yeah, I'm gonna lock this guy up." Should have to come down to that, but here we are. That's what it's gonna come down to. Hendrickson is Comanche 60, Super Bowl 60. It's supposed to be something that keeps everyone chatting and talking. Is always Trey Hendrickson gonna get traded to the this could be scripted drama. It could be scripted drama because, oh, where is he going to go? To the Bills. He's going to go to the Eagles. He's going to go to the Lions. You see, that's he's not signed because they need something to occupy the airwaves during this off season. It could very well be scripted drama and they already have a deal, but they need to keep people talking throughout the off season. That's why this guy hasn't been signed yet. I'm convinced that's what happens. Levi Stadium is 46, which is interesting because for a spot in the Super Bowl, will this mean that Michigan could host NFC Championship game? After all, Michigan's come out to Levi Stadium. Could it be a Michigan team at Levi's Stadium when it's all said and done? Eagles could make it back into the game too. Levi's is 22 and 22 is Comanche Eagles. Again, if the Bengals beat the Eagles, if the Eagles fought a 2-4 in the Super Bowl. Who would win an Eagles Ravens matchup? Well, Eagle is 21, and the Ravens could fall to 2-1 in the Super Bowl, hypothetically. I doubt the racist NFL puts two black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. I doubt it. Ravens Eagles is 47 and 128. 128 is Comanche of the Superdome. So last year's Super Bowl, next year's Super Bowl. That's what Ravens Eagles tells us. And this remains really interesting too. Bengals Eagles is Camacho Levi's. Bengals Eagles Camacho Levi Stadium. Never say never. Joe Burrow number 9. Hurts is number 2. Burrow's gonna be 9-2 in the playoffs. Never say never. Never say never. It is Lions and Bills. Because Bills are a possibility, but I believe their moment is in LA. Bills and Lions played December 15 was when they played. December 15, that was last year. How much time is that to next year's Super Bowl? And in 2026. This is why this Bills Lions, you gotta consider Bills Lions. You gotta consider it. Basically it's Lions or Eagles next year. Lions have a case, but the Detroit Lions are 61 in Gematria, and they could easily make it next year. I don't know how soon their window is going to close, but it, gotta gotta keep this a possibility because it's 60 weeks from Lions Bills to the Super Bowl. So this you can't just ignore this matchup and say it's not going to happen. There's a 60-week duration. Now 60's Camacho Bengals. Could be a psyop, could not be a psyop. There's two ways of looking at 60. This is a psyop, and it's actually the Bengals, or it's a rematch in Super Bowl 60, 60 weeks later from the Bills 48-42 over the Lions. So, yeah, can't ignore that one. What does the Bengals and the Lions tell us is that basically 4 months and 3 days before the Super Bowl and champions Camacho 43. I think there'll be a repeat matchup in the Super Bowl. It doesn't happen that often. Last time it happened with Super Bowl 55 and 49ers is Camacho 55. But I think this is a year where we can see a repeat matchup in the Super Bowl. There's a couple possibilities out there. And so, again, the amount of time from Bengals, Lions to the Super Bowl is 4 months and 3 days. And that's the big champion, Gamachian. The 126 days is last year's Super Bowl is at New Orleans. Okay, this year, what's the Super Bowl going to be? That's how I look at 126 with that matchup. The Lions Bengals. About the last Ravens Eagles, that was a matchup last year, wasn't it? That wasn't 68 weeks. That's 58 weeks. There's not much 58 with Levi's or Bay Area or anything. I thought it's Eagles Ravens, but when you're examining, the top five possibilities for Super Bowl matchups, you gotta at least include that Eagles Ravens. You gotta include it in the combo. I think where the numbers just when the numbers make the case for either team, I think you should go to the birthday. I think you should go to the birthday. So Jared Goff's birthday to the Super Bowl. Are we looking at Jalen Hurts' birthday to the Super Bowl? Those are the things you have to look at. 117, 118. There's nothing really there with his birthday, Jared Goff. I think Yeah, there's nothing there with Jared Goff's birthday, so I wonder. But it's 60 days from Burrow's birthday to Super Bowl 60. It's like, what are the odds of that? He's born on the 10th day. This is next Super Bowl at the Bay Area, 10 years after Super Bowl 50. Bottom line is the Bengals have to win this in a year that no one's gonna think they're gonna win. I'm sure this whole Hendrickson thing is scaring people away. I think it is. 68 days from Goff's birthday, 2 months and 7 days from Goff's birthday to Joe Burrow's birthday, 68 days. You're talking about a championship matchup. Championship is 68, 2 months, 7 days. Santa Clara 27, Cincy 27. Championship 68, 131, 57. Those are the big championship numbers we always speak about. That 68-day duration simply can't be ignored. It can't be ignored. Imagine this. He's a Rams quarterback and he plays at SoFi Stadium. That should be rigged too. That's actually a good case. It could be the Rams former Ram quarterback plays at the Rams stadium, or it could be the Bay Area kid plays at San Francisco. So that's why the range for the Lions to play the Super Bowl is definitely Super Bowl 60, Super Bowl 61. If the Lions don't make it this year, they are making it next year. 7 years later or 8 years later. So Jared Goff was a Camacho of New Orleans, but he didn't play New Orleans, did he? Maybe the following Super Bowl after New Orleans. The following Super Bowl after New Orleans. Jared Thomas Goff in abbreviations is the 9-2 playoff record for Joe Burrow as he beats Goff in the Super Bowl. Jared Thomas Goff 67, Levi's 67. Lions Lions Eagles this year. The 49ers ain't got no chance this year. Home teams don't make it outside of pandemic years. They have zero chance of making it. Fraud Purdy's a joke. He's not even a top five, top 10. It's debatable if he's top 10, but this guy's overpaid. He's going to choke. Just watch. Home teams don't make it outside of pandemic years. 49ers have zero chance of making it. They may have a chance to make it to the divisional round, but are they going to do anything outside of the divisional round? I doubt it. If they make it to the divisional round, then they're asking to get spanked by the Lions or the Eagles. I guarantee they'll get spanked by the Lions or the Eagles. Jalen Hurts could fall to 1-2 in Super Bowls, and Joe's Comanche 12. You can make a case for either team. You can make a case for the Lions or the Eagles. They got to play in the playoffs at some point, I bet you. I say the Eagles win the regular season matchup. If the Eagles win the regular season matchup, Lions going to be in the postseason. I don't care what anyone says. Or if it's Michigan 46 and Levi Stadium 46, then, the tiebreaker, blah, blah, blah. They could play the conference title game at Michigan. I mean, Jared Goff, he threw 96 touchdown passes with California and Cincinnati's 96. Yeah, if he does make it to the Super Bowl, Is it 18 years after 0 and 16, or is it 17 years after 0 and 16 now? There hasn't been a team that went 0 and 17. Cleveland, do they go 0 and 17? That was before they expanded the regular season to one more game. So, there hasn't been 0 and 17 team, but there's been 0 and 16 team, and they could make it to the Super Bowl 17 years later if you had the Detroit Lions. Will the Eagles lose the NFC title game this year? Washington has no chance. It's going to be a sophomore year. People are too high on them. People are quick to overrate these guys. Always Michael Jordan, always the next Patrick Mahomes. They're like, calm down. This kid a rookie. It's like, y'all people calm down with your comparison. But hey, never say never if the Lions sustain some more heartbreak. I know Lions could be 1 and 2 in the NFC title game to face off against Joe, and Joe's come out to 12. If the Eagles beat the Lions 6-4 in the conference title game, it's Campbell. That's Camacho 64. Dan's Camacho 10 to be their 10th NFC Championship game appearance. Eagles have never won an NFC Championship game on the road. Every single NFC Championship game that they've won was at home. They've never won a conference championship game on the road. I was there for one of them, 2008, when the Cardinals made it to the Super Bowl, when they beat the Eagles, and when they played the Steelers in the Colts 6 Super Bowl title game. Blah blah. Yeah. I'm sold on the Bengals. I'm sold on Joe Burrow. I am convinced he's got it. The Bays come up to 25 and Ravens is 25. So that's where the Ravens Eagles cannot be ignored. The Bay is 61. 61. What is 61? Jalen Hurts is 61. The Bay is 61. So can't ignore that matchup. If the Bay is 25 and Jared is 25, can't ignore it at all. Did Jared come out to 20? Yeah, but Lions is 24. So if the Eagles beat the Lions and they make it to the Super Bowl, the Eagles are losing the Super Bowl. They're going to fall to 2-4 in the Super Bowl. That's the meaning of Lions. I mean, Bay Area is 26. The Bengals ended the curse of Bo Jackson with 26 points against the Raiders. 26 total playoff games for the Bengals. Playoff game number 30 in the Super Bowl. Which team makes the most sense for 30? Well, Lions is Camacho 30. The Bengals' 30th playoff game against the Lions. 11, 12, 13, then 14. The race ritual against Lamar, 13th Amendment, abolish slavery, 13th win against the Ravens, seeking to make it to their next Super Bowl in 13 years, but the Bengals going to beat the Ravens. Kansas City, it will probably be, I presume, Super Bowl 64 or Super Bowl 65. 66 the number of the beast, so we got to consider the range for Super Bowl 64 to Super Bowl 66. It'll go through a period with once Andy Reid, I think, he retires after this year. He'd be smart to retire if they lose in the wild card against the Bengals. He'd be smart to retire. I still have them winning the division this year. They should win the division. They'll be a third seed. Bengals will be the sixth seed. Well, the Ravens are number one seed. If the Ravens, well, if Bengals are number six, they beat Bills at number one. Then they beat Ravens at number two. Something like that. Something like that. The 14th playoff win for the Bengals franchise. What is 14? 14 is end, but what else is 14? What else? What else? Joe Montana, number 16. The Bengals lost 20-16 in Super Bowl 23. Was that 23? Oh, that was. Okay. Who the 49ers beat in Super Bowl 24? Super Bowl 23. I thought they beat them in Super Bowl 24. Who was Super Bowl 24? Okay, Super Bowl 24, they beat the Broncos 55-10. Of course, the Broncos played in the Super Bowl at the 49ers Stadium, so this history you should just say, oh, since he's not going to make it, blah, 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 blah. Because, guys, the Broncos played at the Niners Stadium, and they were one of the teams that Joe Montana beat. Got to at least include the Bengals in the conversation. Super Bowl 23, so that's 37 Super Bowls later. Well, Bengals' last appearance at Los Angeles. So they'll make it 37 years after the last Bengals 49ers matchup in Super Bowl 23. Bengals pro tackle remains confident despite offseason distractions. Orlando Brown, Mike Brown. Well, Brown is Gamache 27. That's Gamache Santa Clara. So for connecting it to the owner, Brown is 27. And that's why I think one of the uh, Cincinnati Bengals with uh, uh, the historic Brown family, Paul Brown, Cleveland Browns, NFL Hall of Fame, Ohio. Bengals have got the Super Bowl. They've got the history with one of these pioneer football families. If he goes in the Super Bowl against the Bengals, they're locked to lose. Burrows come out to 34. They had a 34 nothing lead over the Chiefs. They had a 24 nothing lead at halftime. Bengals is 24. Lions is 24. If they play in the Super Bowl, they fought a 2-4 in the Super Bowl. Just like Kobe. Just like Kobe. What would the Bengals playoff record be round by round? Bengals record round by round. What do we get? Well, yeah, Bengals are 3-8 in the wild card round, so that's where I like them to win at Burrowhead. They'll be 4-8 in the wild card round. The Bengals. In the divisional round, the Bengals are going to be 5-4, like Camacho of Bills is 54, and of course, conference championship record they'll be 4-1, and I think 4-1 is Baltimore in the Bay Area. So that is the meaning of the record by record in the playoffs. No matter what, the Bengals, they're going to be 1-3 in the Super Bowl. The Bengals, if they make it to the Super Bowl, they'll be 1-3, and I can see this happening against a black quarterback. And because 13th Amendment abolished slavery, if they do this to the Eagles, Philadelphia was the capital of the colonies, and they had delegates from 13 states meeting at Philadelphia in the Continental Congress. So that's the meaning of 1-3. And Jared Goff played at LA, and LA is 13. So all the 13s are there for Cincinnati. It stacks up. It stacks up. So the verdict is out. If another black quarterback, Jordan Love, is going to make the Super Bowl, I'm not going to write off the Packers, but there are simply other teams right now that have a little bit better matchups, some better symbolism. They're this guy, Jordan Love, uh, even though he half black, half white, he part of the UAP Newton conversation. But Cam Newton, full-blooded black quarterback in the Black Panthers. So full-blooded black quarterback. This where Lamar is going to be in the combo. Where Jalen Hurts making it back to the Super Bowl is a combo. But this is where I at least consider Jordan Love. Oh, he's paid the biggest contract. You got to put this guy in the Super Bowl because he has the biggest contract. Are they about to shame this guy? I don't know. Could Jordan Love enter the Eagles playoff game with a 2-2 record? Eagles is 22, or who knows? So who knows what other team's going to be in there? He from Bakersfield, California, Jordan Love. How far? Where is it at? Is it closer to LA or is it closer? The Packers played the inaugural Super Bowl at LA, so the Lion Packers next year. Maybe Eagles take a slide next year. Bakersfield is closer to LA. Okay. Maybe the Packers will have a stronger connection for next year, maybe. But Packers make it to the Super Bowl. Their playoff record will be 4-6 in the NFC Championship game. So I'm not writing off the Packers. Three teams NFC I like: the Lions and the Eagles, and then the Packers right behind. Those are the three. 41ers have zero chance. The other teams are garbage. AFC, AFC, the one team that has zero chance is, for the first time, I have declared that the Chiefs have zero chance of making it to a Super Bowl before the beginning of the season. This is the first time ever that I've correctly predicted the Chiefs to be in all these Super Bowls. I keep on predicting them to beat Lamar, to beat the Bills, and to beat everybody else. So this is the first time that this team ain't gonna make it back to the Super Bowl. And they won't make it back there because teams who got destroyed in Super Bowls, they don't make it back the next year, do they? So this team is cooked. He'll definitely get the six. Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowls, Chiefs, 7th Super Bowl title. He'll get there eventually. He'll say he only won because of Andy Reid, and he'll have a period of purgatory, and there'll be the moment where everyone's writing this guy off, and he's just part of the Andy Reid system, and then script writers say he's ready to win and prove everyone wrong, and Las Vegas, record breaking profits again. Oh, this guy's Friday exposed career over, and he's gonna again, the number of the beast, 66. It's got to be around 65, 64, 66. Kansas City Chiefs is 64. Is 64 too soon? We have to at least go 5 years without Super Bowl. Probably the latter. Probably the latter. Of course, that keep a very open mind for the possibilities of this upcoming NFL season, keeping an open perspective on the list of contenders that would make the most sense for the big game. Anyone out there wouldn't mind watching Lions Bills or Lions Bengals, 2 long droughts. Same thing with Buffalo. Bills and Josh Allen against the Eagles is another one. Eagles and the Ravens in the symbolism. Eagles and Bengals because of what some of those numbers could suggest. The David versus Goliath, best quarterback against that team. So overall, those are 4 or 5 matchups next year that I will not be surprised to see it turning out that way. We'll see what happens.